Hey guys, welcome to chapter 2, section 5, and this section is going to be all about objects and classes. Now, you might have heard of object-oriented programming, such as Java, Smalltalk. There's actually a lot of object-oriented programming languages, but there's very few that are as object-oriented as Ruby. It considers everything as an object. Any string, any number, integer, even Boolean operators like and or are treated like objects. So virtually everything is an object to Ruby. So it's very important, if you're going to learn Ruby, then you need to understand the basic principles of object-oriented programming. And whenever you talk about objects, you have to talk about classes, because all objects belong to a class. Okay, no matter what. And a class can have methods and properties, which are two different things. Let's just say we have a class called animal, alright? And in the animal class we'll have properties like maybe type, let's say size, color, stuff like that. So those would be properties. And then we'd have methods, which we already know what methods are. We've been using them, just not in an object-oriented sense. So a method might be like, say, roar or bark or something like that. It's an action. So just remember, classes have properties and they have actions or methods. So I think the best way to do this would just to show you an example. So I'm going to create a class, and I'm going to call it car. Now when you create a class, the class name should always be capitalized. The first letter should always be capitalized. Alright, so I mean, in this command line interface we're going to do it line by line, but you could also when we get into the next sections we'll be working with Ruby files, so we'll have everything laid out in a file. So it's not always going to be this command line interface. So if we create a class called car, you'll see that the number changes here to 1, and like I explained before, that's because we're working in the class. We're not on the top level. Okay, now so we have a class of car. We want to add some attributes, and when I say attributes, it's the same as properties. Alright, so they're pretty much the same thing. We're going to have a car class, so we can have a make, a model, a color. So how we define attributes is we do attr and then an underscore and then assessor. So we'd have the attr assessor, and then here we define our properties. So a class of car, let's say make, can be a property, and then you just separate them with a comma, and all the properties should start with a colon. So make, model, color. Okay, so we'll define these three. So we have a class with 3 attributes or 3 properties. So we're just going to end it here, and then you'll see it gives us nil because there's no errors or anything, and we're also back to the top level. So we have an actual class created. Now the class itself really doesn't do much for us because we have no objects. We only have a class. We have to create the object. So we're going to create a car object. So I'm just going to call it car1. Alright, so car1, we have to define this as an object. So we do this by the equal sign, and then we have the name of the class, and then .new. And this is just a resource. You don't have to pay attention to this number right here, but we now have a car1 is an object in the car class. So now that we have this object, we want to add some properties to it. So to do that, we would say car1 dot, let's say, make. Car1 make will set to I don't know, Honda. Okay, so now we have this object. Car1 is the object. It belongs to the car class, and it has a color of, a make of Honda. Now we can add some more. We'll say car1 dot model can be Civic. All right, and we'll say car1 dot color can be blue. So now we have an object with 3 properties. If we try and add a property that wasn't defined in the class, like car1 dot, we'll say style equals sedan, and we get this error that says undefined method style or an undefined property. So you have to define your properties in the class in order to have a property. So this object, this car1 object, it's an instance. It's called an instance. So we can create unlimited objects from this. So we can say car2 dot make, we'll say Toyota. Whoop. Oh, we have to define it first. We can't just, we have to define each object. So car2 equals car.new. So whenever you're going to create a new car, you have to name it, and then you have to do the car.new. Now we can say car2.make is Toyota. And let's just say car2.model Camry, and car2.color, we'll say green. Well, should be consistent with single or double quotes. I make that mistake quite a bit. Okay, so now we have 2 objects. We have car1 and car2. And we can work with each property as well. So we could say print car2.make, and it'll print Toyota. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out real quick. Now, in addition to having attributes for a class, we can have methods. And we can have methods that are only particular to that class. So let's say, so we have our car class. Let's just say we're going to have a method called drive. Alright, so what we would do is go back into the class. So we'll do class car. And now you can see it changed to a 1, so we're in the class. Now we're going to define a method. We're going to do the DEF for define, and then we're going to call it drive. Now, if we press enter, you'll see now we have a 2 here instead of a 1. And what that means is that not only are we in the car class, but we're also in the drive function. I mean the drive method. Alright, so here's what we're going to put, what we want to happen when we use the drive method. And obviously we can't make a computer drive, so I'm just going to print out driving. Okay, so the drive method, all it's going to do is print out the word driving. So we want to do ends to get out of the function, and then we want to do end to get out of the class. So now we should be able to call it by going, let's say we have our car1 object, and we can use this on any of our car objects. So we'll just do car1 drive. Well, actually we'll print it out to the screen. Print car1 drive. And it says driving. So that's how you would call a method that's in a particular class for a particular object. So what I want to do now is talk about inheritance, and I'm actually going to close out of this and open a new window, because when you close out and open a new command prompt, everything gets erased. So there's no classes. I just wanted to get rid of that class and any other entities that we had on that particular command prompt. So just go into a new session, a new command prompt, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a class called vehicle. Okay, because we're going to have the car class extend or inherit properties from the vehicle class, because say in this program we're writing, we don't want just cars. We want to have boats or trucks, It could be like a classifieds type of website application. So let's just create a vehicle class. So class vehicle, and we want to define the attributes, and we're gonna do we'll just say make. Now what we want here is attributes that will work for cars, boats, trucks, any kind of vehicle. So we know that all vehicles have a make. Okay, so we know that all vehicles have a color, and I don't know, we could say year. So we know all vehicles have these three attributes. So we can have these as attributes for the master class, which is vehicle. So, and we're just going to end it there. So now what we do to create a subclass, or a class that inherits the vehicle class, we do car, and then we do the less than sign, and the class we want to inherit. So it's class car extends vehicle, or inherits vehicle. And here we want to add an attribute, and we're going to add an attribute called four-wheel, which will just be a yes or no attribute if the vehicle has four-wheel drive. And then we'll end that. So now we have a vehicle class with three attributes we can use, and we have a car class that can also use these three attributes in addition to this four-wheel attribute. So let's just create a car. We'll just say car1 equals car.new, and car1 dot make, we'll say BMW, and car1 dot color equals black. Sorry, I'm using double and single quotes here. I'll try to stick to one. Black. And car1 year, we'll say 2012. Now we have our three attributes. Now we can also add if the car has four-wheel drive or not by car1 dot four-wheel equals, and here we're going to use a 1 or a 0 for yes or no. It's very typical to use for something where we just have an on or an off value. So we're going to say 0 because it doesn't have four-wheel drive. Now let's create actually, you know what, let's create another subclass. So let's do class boat, and that will also extend the vehicle class. And here, and for the boat class, I want to have a hull attribute. So it'll be hull, it'll be fiberglass or steel, but this is something that only the boats will have. So as we're doing this, try to think of like an auction site, something like that, or a classifieds, a vehicle or auction, vehicle classifieds or auction site, something like that. So for this, we just want to have the hull attribute, and then we'll end. So now we can say boat 1, and we want this to be an part of the boat class, so boat.new. So now we can give it some attributes. We'll say boat1, boat1 dot make. I don't really know any boat makers, so I'll just say sample boats. I don't know. Okay, and now we'll do boat1 dot, what else do we have? Color. So we'll just say white, and boat1 dot year, I'll I'll say 2009. Actually, we don't need to use quotes on that. So 2009. Now we can do boat1.hull, and that'll be fiberglass. Alright, so now we have a boat and a car. Now, if I try to do this, car1.hull equals fiberglass. That shouldn't happen. What just happened? Oh, we need to... I'm not sure what was happening right there with those quotes, but let's try that again. So, car1.hull, fiberglass, and you can see undefined method hull. So, or undefined also means undefined attribute. So we can't give a car a hull because the car is a class that doesn't have that as an attribute. We also couldn't give a boat four-wheel drive attribute. And you can do the same thing with methods. So let's say, do this real quick. So let's go back into the car, which extends, was it vehicle? Yeah, vehicle. So we're back in the car class. Now let's define a method. I don't know. Let's say do donuts. Says we're not going to have the boat do donuts. So we'll just, just for an example, we'll just say print doing donuts. And then we want to end out of the function and then end out of the class. And same thing, we'll go to class boat, which extends vehicle. And this, we'll just say, we'll define a function called, I don't know, sailing. And just print out, I'm sailing. And then end out of the method and end out of the class. End out of the class. What happened here? Undefined local variable. Oh, because I didn't have the end. So we have to go back into that and just fix it. So in the boat class, define sailing, which will print out I'm sailing and end. And then end again. Alright, so now we can do print car1 dot, was it drive? No, donuts. Car1 do donuts. Undefined method do donuts. Def do donuts. That's strange. Let's just check car1's class. And I don't know if I mentioned that, but you can actually use the class method for it to echo out or print out what class it's in. So car1 well, let's try to create another one. Alright, so let's go back to class car extends vehicle. And I don't know what happened there, so let's just try to do another function. We'll say drive. So this is a method or a function called drive, which will print out driving and end and end. Alright, so now we should be able to print car1.drive. Alright, so I'm not sure, something must have happened with the syntax up there. But as you can see, we can have the car1 drive. We cannot, however, say print boat1.drive. Now there's an undefined method of drive because we don't have that method in the boat class. So that's the basics of inheritance. Very, very helpful and useful, and probably one of the most used aspects of programming in general. So that's it for this section, and that's it for this chapter. I will see you. We'll get back into some Rails work in chapter 3.